Hello, everyone. My name is Kerrie Bodendorf, and I'm here for another edition of the Melt Insider. Today, I'm here with Simone Forget. Welcome, Simone.
Hi, Kerrie.
So, Simone, tell us where you live and how you first learned about the melt method.
I live in Alberta, Canada, right next to the Rocky Mountains. And I first heard of melt. I was trying to figure this out probably about maybe 12 or between 12 and 15 years ago.
Mm,
And a client of mine had taken a hand and foot course
yeah.
from somebody local who had done training with Sue, and it came to me and said, "You have to learn more about this because it was amazing." And she talked about how her hands had felt, and I knew because I'd been working with her. And she said, "This is what I felt before we did the treatment, and this is what I felt after, and it was amazing."
Mhm.
And so I'm a bit of a keener. So I got the gear, like just the hand and foot kit. And the book wasn't even out yet. Like,
No, not 12 to 15 years ago, it wasn't.
uh, and so I just was going through the DVDs actually came in the little pouch.
Yeah.
And I started going through it, but I think I need a little more. Like it was amazing for me too, but I kind of dropped the ball. I just sort of put it in the
No
back.
pun intended, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so I always knew I wanted to learn more about it. And so I check in on it from time to time. I had a few false starts where I registered for some training,
Mhm.
and then couldn't do it because from Canada, it's really costly with the exchange and things.
Right.
And so I started saving, and for years I saved in order to do a training, which I ultimately did in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I heard about it, and it just took me a really long time to actually get the hand and foot and instructor level 1 training under my belt.
Wonderful. So, Simone, has melt helped you with anything specific in your own body?
Yes. So 8 years ago, I had to quit work. I'm a body worker, and so I usually work 8 to 10 hours a day doing body work with clients. And I had so much pain in one of my wrists. I went to my doctor. I couldn't lean on my wrist. I couldn't put weight in my wrist.
Mm,
It took us a year. I had to stop work, and we thought, oh, soft tissue injury. Let's just let it heal, take a week off. I couldn't put weight on my hands, which you can't work as a body worker.
right.
Yeah, right. There's certain things you can't do. So it took a year to figure out what was wrong. And in that year of waiting, I was off work, and it took 4 more years to actually, and 3 surgeries to get me back to work.
Oh my goodness.
And so we were trying, as you can imagine, everything.
Mhm.
And I started towards the end of that, I started doing my own therapy because everything I was trying and that was being suggested to me, I was a keener, I was doing the homework, I was doing my exercises, but it wasn't helping. So I started trying to find my own solutions. And that's when I started melting. And by that time I'd had multiple scars from the surgery.
Right.
Yeah, the hand treatment and the forearm work was amazing. I've been back at work now. I should have been melting all along. Like, it's too bad when that first client said to me, "Simone, you've got to get into this," because I would never have gotten to that place of surgery,
In
never
the first place.
in
Mm.
the first place. And now, 30 minutes a day at the end of my day, I do hand, forearm, and then upper body compression, length, and neck in some combination.
Yeah.
And I can go to bed and wake up in the middle of the night and not have the neurological symptoms that I used to have, not have the swollen hands where, circulation is getting, like, fluid is getting trapped in my hands and my hands feel fat. I don't get that anymore. And so as long as I do that, I'm fine, and my hands feel great. I call them 12-year-old hands. Like, after I'm done, they just feel everything moves. And when I don't do my self-care for 2 work days in a row, I feel like I have old hands.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to do it on the days I don't work, but on the days I do, I have to do it. So I am working because of Mel.
It's such a great message for body workers because, I mean, you just give and give and give and give all day long. And it is taxing on your body. I mean, every body worker I've talked to has, thumb issues, wrist issues, shoulder issues, neck issues. So if you just melt a little bit each day, like you're saying, at the end of your workday, it's restoring all of the repetitive motions that you've been doing all day long, and it's kind of restoring the tissue so that you can work. I mean, if that's your livelihood, you need to be able to work. So such a great message for body workers out there. Get yourself at least just the hand and foot kit and start melting your hands and feet.
Well, and the beautiful thing about the work that I do in my hands and my forearms every day is that I'm in the pandemic, I'm on Zoom with my mom and my sister every night for supper. We just have Zoom supper.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I do it after I've eaten while I'm talking. So I don't have to set any extra time aside. And that piece of my self-care doesn't interrupt my ability to be with my family.
Wonderful. I know, because you can melt and do something else at the same time. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And it doesn't take very long. So Simone, do you offer melt to your clients?
Yes, absolutely. And in so many ways, it has influenced how I deliver my therapy sessions. So probably the biggest and most obvious way, if you were to come and sit in the corner of my room and watch me during the day, what you would see is that as soon as we figure out what we're working on that day, if there's something new melt-wise that I haven't taught that particular client that is relevant to what's going to be their therapy for that day, we start with melt. And the reason I start, and we can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 40 minutes, because my sessions are 90 minutes in length. And depending on the client and their what they need that day and their ability to absorb the information, I will either offer it as pre-treatment, pre-hands-on treatment, or I'll offer it as take this home and do it as self-care, just depending on what they're up for. Yeah. And what I love for me is that just doing the pre-assessments is diagnostic for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Telling me as they're feeding back, and I'm starting to see patterns in what they say that help me to do the hands-on work later. So we might do one move, pre-assessment, one move, and then post-assessment, or we might do a whole sequence. And I'm only right now melt level 1 trained, and I'm currently in melt level 2. So I'm limited to the moves that I can teach. And I have access, as you know, through the Sue's website to handouts. And just give me 1 second, let me grab this.
Yeah.
I have this in my treatment room. It's all in plastic pages.
Yeah.
And I've color coded each of the sequences, all different colors, just to make it easy for my clients if they're texting me and saying, which one am I supposed to do?
Oh, that's such a great idea.
Yeah, it works for me and it works for them. And so they get always the handout that includes the move or that includes the sequence. And then what's always mind-blowing, even for my clients who I teach a new session to, new melt every time, is the post-assessment. And then what they tell me once again is diagnostic to where we need to continue to work with the hands-on. So that's the biggest and most obvious way that you would see melt. The small ways that it creeps in is there, like for some people that are coming they don't want to be taught anything. And they don't want to do any work. They're here for me to do the work and me to do the touching. So I still, like my message to them is bring a water bottle, and they're always sipping water throughout the treatment. That's huge. And that comes from melt. Everything I do is pre-post assess. So even if they're not doing melt, I always have them do a movement, and then I do a technique on them myself, and then a post, because I really want them to get a sense of their own body and the before and the after, that real internal self-awareness that melt is so much about. And then what else was I going to say? Oh, like there's always breath work now. And so even if we're not on a roller, I'm always teaching the 3D breath breakdown and the 3D breath in some form, usually hoping to lead up to getting them to on
like you're sneaking it in. They don't even realize it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
love
that
that.
and differentiation, like being able to move a certain part independently. And once again, asking them, can you tuck and tilt your, that's diagnostic for me, right? Or
Absolutely.
can you move your arm bone without moving your shoulder blade?
Yeah.
That's diagnostic for me.
Yeah.
And so just the way I've learned mouth and the beautiful way that it's been presented to me by the incredible team of instructors and Sue herself, it's changed the way I think and the way I deliver my therapy.
Mhm.
And this is why I'm in level 2 right now. This is why I feel like I just can't learn this stuff fast enough, because every single time I hear Sue speak, every time I interact with one of the master trainers like you, I learn something, and it instantly is infusible into the way
What you
I
do.
either teach melt or the way I just do my body work.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. And your clients are so lucky that you have this that you can add in. I love that.
Well, that's kind of you to say, but you know, this is the sort of the way it comes back in such a positive way. I'm really lucky for a couple of reasons, and that is a 90-minute session. Working, you know, like 10 hours a day is what caused my injury in the first place
Mhm.
without doing my own self-care.
Mhm.
Now, think about this. When I'm doing melt with my clients one-on-one, if I have a day where every single client got some melt instruction, that meant that while I was instructing the melt, I wasn't using my
Using your
hands.
hands. Exactly.
And if I'm
Yeah.
demonstrating anything for them, it means I'm getting
You're
treated,
melting.
right? And
Exactly.
so it's this
Yeah.
gift that keeps on giving. And I get to tell my story to them, because when I say it's really important to do this, it keeps you working. And then I just land my story on them, like 5 years unable to work, unable to use my hands and wrists for 5 years. And now look at me go. Like that,
That's a
that's,
powerful story. That's a
mhm,
powerful story.
yeah,
Because think how small your world gets when you can't use your hands. So give your hands a little bit of love every day, people. It's
that's
so
exactly,
worth your time,
exactly.
right? So thank you, Simone. What we'll do, everybody, is put Simone's contact information in the description of this video. And if you would like to tell me your melt story, I'll also link my email in the description as well. Simone, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's such a
It's been a
pleasure, Kerrie.
pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Happy melting.
Happy melting.